Hey, everybody. David Swor back here once again with DJ Cox for another episode of Frenemies. And DJ, before we introduce our guest, I've got to ask you something. I've been waiting all week for this gallon of milk to be dumped on your head. And I just got to know where that's at, man.
All right. So I did go to Walmart and get the gallon of milk. I did that tonight. So there are plans of that happening. It's going to happen. I knew you were going to bring that up, so it will come through.
So tonight we have a special guest with us today. It's Keith Galloway, and Keith was our second baseman our senior year, and it's great to have you today, Keith.
Well, guys, I appreciate you having me. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've already had some fun and didn't even let everybody see that part of it, so I'm looking forward to what we actually get recorded. So
yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So, guys, it's a historic week this week. Max Scherzer, one of 19 players now to have 3,000 strikeouts. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was looking at the just the likelihood if you pitch 30 games and struck out 20 batters for 30 games, it's going to take you like 5 or 10 years to get to 3,000. I mean, that's just insane to me. And most pitchers don't make it that far. Then I started thinking about people who got like Nolan Ryan got to 5,000. I don't know if anybody will hit that again. It's just they don't pitch. I don't think they pitch enough, and I think it's rightfully so. But it just blows my mind how great pitchers are these days that they can, especially somebody like Scherzer, who's just been fantastic his whole career. Great feat, man.
Yeah, so that brings up a great question. I mean, what's the most unbreakable record? I mean, 5,000 strikeouts has got to be pretty close because pitchers are only pitching like 150 innings now, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be up there. 5,714 strikeouts. I mean, the guy that's closest to him is Randy Johnson, and he's almost a grand underneath him. So I just want to go over this list real quick, and I'll shoot through it fast. But these are the guys that Scherzer just joined with the 3,000s. It's Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Steve Carlton, Burt Blyleven, Tom Seaver, Don Sutton, Gaylord Perry, Walter Johnson, Greg Maddux, Phil Niekro, Fergie Jenkins, Pedro Martinez, Bob Gibson, Kurt Schilling, CC Sabathia, John Smoltz, and Justin Verlander are in that club. And now it's Scherzer. And all those names mentioned are Hall of Famers. It's an unbelievable list for all those guys to be on there. And actually, Scherzer is going to pass Verlander because Verlander is probably going to be out for maybe the beginning of next year too, and his career, they're not sure yet. And Scherzer's got a couple more years, so he's going to pass a few more guys on this list here. And when it's all said and done, he's going to climb that even more. So I don't know, man. He's a 3-time Cy Young Award winner. He's actually a finalist for this year too. If you look at all the NL top pitchers, he's one of them up there. And it's outstanding, man. He's really been dominating this year. I just think that, like you said, that 5,700 is untouchable, and Scherzer getting to 3,000 is absolutely amazing.
This is actually going to kind of transition me into our next conversation. I got to ask Keith a question right here. So me and DJ argue about the Hall of Fame pretty much every time we talk. And my fact checkers just got in my ear and told me that 2 of those guys are not in the Hall of Fame. One being Roger Clemens and the second being Kurt Schilling, which is just a travesty. So Keith, just as a side note, what is your stance on steroid players in the Hall of Fame?
That's a great question. I never liked the idea of anybody taking steroids. I was really bummed out when I learned, Mark McGwire was one of my favorite players just in that era where I grew up in. And so it was kind of disappointing, but I thought to myself, these guys, like I find out steroids they're not what we think they are. It's not like, they're just pumping in and they're just building their muscle up. I mean, they still got to work out. You still got to do all these things. And a lot of times anything that's considered an illegal drug that kind of enhances your ability to gain muscle mass is considered a performance enhancing drug if it's not been approved. So I changed my mindset a little bit on it after I've learned more about health and supplements and things like that. But at the time I felt like it was a little dishonest. The same time though, man, these guys still had to go out there and do this stuff every day. You got to be a competitor. And honestly, if they've not been, I guess, if it's past their time and it's not really something that's been proven now, I think they really got to just kind of let go of that and say, hey, these guys were competitors. They deserve this opportunity. And you got Pete Rose is the same way. I mean, that dude's getting chastised for something that honestly, like, it's over. Like that 4,256 or something hits.
He wasn't even
come on.
playing then, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he was a man.
No. Yeah. And I just, these guys were competitors, and I don't like that they broke the rules, but honestly, they freaking, I mean, they were great. So I don't have a problem. If they had gotten the Hall of Fame, I'd be like, they got after it and they deserved it. So I wouldn't argue it. Now, that being said, I don't know if that would be the same thing. I'd have said the same thing back then. I was a little pissed off back then, back when I was in college. So, but I'm not anymore. I'm good now.
Yeah.
He's gotten over it.
I'm getting old. I'm old now. I don't have time for all these grudges, right?
Well, again, I've stated this on this show a bunch of times. It's annoying when the best players aren't in the Hall of Fame. So now our hits leaders, our home run leader is not in the Hall of Fame, and nobody can say for certain who was and who wasn't using. Who would have thought Andy Pettitte would have been using? And that's been my stance all along. Is you can't tell the story of baseball in the 90s and 2000s without those players. You just can't do it. And so Roger Clemens is not going to get in the Hall of Fame. Doesn't look like. Kurt Schilling votes for the wrong party, so he doesn't look like he's going to get in. So it's just a travesty. I hate it. But that leads me right into our next conversation. The Hall of Fame induction was this weekend. Keith, did you get a chance to watch it?
I didn't get to watch it. I did go back and look at some highlights, and I'm a big fan. I was always been a big fan of Larry Walker. That guy could do it all. Not that I wasn't a fan of Derek. I wasn't a Yankees fan. I'll just go there. And I know that's probably going to, if you fall out of this, interview and fainting and passing out because somebody actually didn't like the Yankees growing up. I know that in your world, everybody did, but I did like Jeter. Like some of the plays he made, I was just like, how the play he made where he cuts across, and it's just not it's not a play it's a play an athlete would make. It's not a play that is made in baseball, and he just shovels it and gets the guy out. I was like, that's the play that's right up my alley. Like I would have loved to have made a play like that, and I just got to respect the guy. So I got a massive amount of respect for Jeter. And he went up a notch on my list when I saw Peyton Manning wrote one of those thank you letters to him in that Gatorade commercial a few years back. Yeah. I was like, oh, Peyton Manning was buddies with Jeter. So you got to like him now, especially if you're a Vols fan. Like,
Jeter's the man. I would love for them to release the one moron that didn't vote for him. It had to have been an accident, right? I mean, what is wrong with these people? But DJ, why don't you talk a little bit about Larry Walker, your boy? DJ's a hater, Keith, in case you're wondering.
He hates.
I'm not a hater of Larry Walker. I just don't think he deserved it. I was not a fan of them voting him in. This is a class that I would not have voted for 2 out of the 3 guys, which is kind of rare because I'm one of those guys that unless you're a cheater, I put you in if you got good enough numbers, and I fight David on this all the time. But here's the thing. Larry Walker, 2,160 hits, 72.7 WAR, which is pretty impressive, David. 383 bombs, 1,300 ribbies, 2,100 hits, 313 batting average, 400 on base, and an incredible love for SpongeBob SquarePants, which I don't know where he's wearing all this stuff during his induction call. He had it on. I think he had something during his speech that was SpongeBob as well. So he's a big fan of him apparently too, which leads me to a quick question to both of you. What is the greatest cartoon of all time, David?
And you got me on the spot right there.
This is
definitely
easy.
Not SpongeBob. Let me just throw that out there. I've watched enough SpongeBob. That's like my kids' go-to cartoon. You have to come back to me on that one. You got me. What about you, Keith? Greatest cartoon?
I'm gonna go with anything Looney Tunes.
Oh,
I used to watch those.
Yeah.
Always growing up.
You're right.
And now I tell you this: you ask my son, he's gonna say Phineas and Ferb, which I did not like until I watched it with him, and I was like, "Hey, it's pretty funny."
That is a great one.
But Looney Tunes is the one. They're head and shoulders above it for me. I used to watch them all the time growing up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the only answer.
I can't argue with that at all.
All right, David. Well, I wanted to fight you on this, but you came up with the right answer, so that really stinks. But anyway, back to what we're talking about. Larry Walker, I didn't think he deserved it. It is cool that he did. I really did like him as a player, and there was nothing I hated about him or anything. I just didn't think he had the numbers to deserve it to get in there. But David, you were really big on him making it. So give me a little bit more detail as to why you thought he totally deserved it.
Well, basically because Larry Walker was an unsung five-tool player. He truly was. Look at his stats. The WAR proves that out, which I never was really big on that stat. But, they say 60 is the baseline to get in the Hall of Fame. He was at 72, but he stole bases. He won batting titles. He was awesome on defense. And it goes back to me and DJ have argued about this forever. The bar got lowered big time for me when Tim Raines got in. I like Tim Raines. I think he was a fine player. He was just not a Hall of Fame player. So in my book, if the bar is Tim Raines, Larry Walker is every bit as good as Tim Raines was. He was just a different style player. And so that's why I would be willing to let him in. And I know a lot of people want to penalize him for those years in Colorado. He hit in St. Louis too. He hit in Montreal too. He was a good hitter. He deserved to be in.
This is why you got to broaden your horizons, is what you just said, the different style of player, David. This is what this is all about, which kind of leads me right into our next guy we're talking about, Ted Simmons, David. I mean, I don't think either of us thought Ted Simmons was a Hall of Famer by any stretch of the imagination, with a 248 home runs, 285 career average, 1389 ribbies, 2,472 hits, 50 WAR for the Cardinals, Brewers, and Braves. And Keith, when we were little, man, in 86, 87, and 88, he was on your Braves. And I bet you at that time you never thought, hey, here comes a Hall of Fame catcher. I pretty sure you thought he was a really good catcher, but not Hall of Fame. And he's in there. And I just kind of, to my point, David, what we were talking about is a different type of catcher than like a guy like Joe Mauer, who is a 306 career hitter with 2,100 hits. Also, 55 WAR. You're just taking like the last year of his career on there, so that's a bunch of garbage. And your boy Posada, David, 275, 1,000 ribbies, 273 average, 1,600 hits, 42 WAR. So a little bit less numbers than Ted Simmons put up, but different type of catchers, and that's kind of what you have to look at sometimes too when you're determining who a Hall of Famer is. So very shocked Ted Simmons got in, but they voted him in.
So y'all are going to think this is interesting. When I was growing up, my grandfather gave me this game that my dad had, and that actually it had Mike Schmidt on this game. It had a bunch of players. It was in the 70s. Like it was a game that had players from the late 60s, early 70s on it. And it was like my grandfather had it and he had gotten it from my dad. It's just like a fun thing for them to do together. And it was like the coolest thing. It had players, famous players from that era, and you put them into this like flick, like a spinning thing. Did you have the same game?
I had this game, but I had probably the early 80s version of it because we used to play this game and you flick the thing and it would be like single, double.
Yeah.
Run.
So
yeah.
I had to have 70s and some 80s players. I can't think of all the players we had, but Mike Schmidt was on there. There were some players from the 80s, but Ted, who I don't think Ted Simmons was. He might have been on there, but I don't remember him. And he was with the Braves when I watched him so much. So I would have known that if that was the case. And like I paid attention to all that stuff. I would play games out. Like I'd put teams in there while I'm watching TV and I'd play those games out. And I started making them for like my favorite players. It was crazy. I just was obsessed with this stuff, but he wasn't on there. And I had to go back and look him up. And I was like, dude, I don't even remember this guy. Mm-hmm. If I don't remember him, and as much as time as I spent, I was like, I don't know. I don't think he deserved it, especially not more than. Now I get it. Catching was different.
Right.
But he wasn't on my list of favorite players for sure.
Well, I'll say this. I listened to the MLB intro to the Hall of Fame. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. And it had me a little more convinced. I mean, the guy probably was the second best catcher in his era, followed by, behind Johnny Bench, those are big shoes to fill. He was one of the first real like bat first catchers. And they put out some pretty good stats. But having said that, when you're off the ballot the first try, you can't be Hall of Famer. I'm sorry. He didn't. I think he only got 5% of the vote the first time through, and that's a pretty good gauge of your career. But having said that, it does give me hope for a guy like Posada, who, again, I do think deserves to be there. At least deserves a little more of a look than he got. Bernie Williams is another guy that deserves a little more look than he got. But on the surface, Ted Simmons was an awesome dude and a really good player, but not a Hall of Famer in my book anyway.
This is a guy who thinks Jorge Posada is a Hall of Famer, but not Joe Mauer. I don't understand him very much, Keith. I don't really know.
Joe Mauer was a first baseman.
Joe Mauer did not hardly ever play
like the whole last half of his career, he was a first baseman. Do you watch baseball, DJ?
He was not.
He was totally a first baseman.
Oh, get out of here.
You're going to make me get the stats out.
You pull him right out. He maybe his last few years because he was older. Big deal.
He hit like 1 home run a year those last 8 years. What are you talking about?
10 dominant years. I'll take the 10 dominant years over a Ted Simmons 20-year career.
You'll take whatever stat put your favorite players in. That's what you'll do.
Get out of here. Joe Mauer, what a stud. Should deserve the Hall of Fame eventually. But if Ted Simmons is in, guys like that need to start going in. And Buster Posey's got a case too, man. I'm telling you. Like, we'll see what they do with those guys. It'd be very interesting to see. If you let Ted Simmons in, you started to let more of these guys like Mauer and Posada get back on the radar a little bit more.
I like catchers. I was always a big fan of catchers just because they were tough. They were like the epitome of toughness because they had to be the ones who kind of sat there and took getting run over. Buster Posey, when he had that injury, I was like, that's a tough. I mean, that hurt, but that's a tough dude.
Yep.
Come back in and be as effective as he was even after that. Got healed from that. But yeah, man, I got to say there's an extra level of toughness there for those guys, but I'm with you. Joe Mauer could hit it. I don't think he hit as much for power, if I can remember.
No.
Right. I think he got a lot of hits though.
Oh yeah.
He didn't have one season with 100 RBIs. One.
Are you sure?
Positive. I'm looking right at it.
Okay. Well, then you'd be sure because I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean,
one of the greatest hitting, don't let him sway you, Keith. He's one of the greatest hitting catchers statistic wise there is. I mean, look at his batting average.
His batting average is crazy. I'm looking at it now too. Batting average for a catcher is pretty dang good. Now, I'll say this though, it doesn't fit the stigma of the catcher.
Right.
Like we think of them as being guys who, because toughness is associated with, man, we're going to get runs in.
Yeah.
We're going to be the guy that kind of does a little bit of everything. And Joe Mauer was a fantastic hitter for average. What's his on base percentage like?
Listen, I like Joe Mauer. Good player. He's a little ahead of Ted Simmons, like little bit. And if Ted Simmons is only getting 5% out and we're saying there's no way he's a Hall of Famer, you can't push Joe Mauer over into that. But
I'll go with this. I think the era does matter. So I'll give Ted Simmons. I don't know if Joe Mauer deserves to be on it, but I'm not sure all those other guys. I really like those guys, though. This is what's fun to talk about because it's like a standard that's not necessarily.
Yeah, it's not cut and dry.
Yeah, you just kind of have to go with your style and what you prefer. Man, I like a guy that kind of goes against the grain. So I like Joe Mauer for it, but he may not deserve. You might be right; he might not deserve it.
You go find me another catcher, Dave, that has 8 seasons batting over 300. Go find it. I dare you to try. 8.
Are you sure he was playing catcher that whole time?
8 seasons over 300. You know what? He only hit 305 in 2017, and that's the only shot you got at him being a first baseman there. So 7 of those 8 were definitely catcher. He led the league 3 times in batting average with 347, 328, and 365.
That's crazy.
That's outstanding. His on-base percentage that year was 444. Led the league in on-base percentage twice, over 400, and on-base percentage, I don't know how many times, at least 6 times over 400 on base. Unbelievable.
Like I said, man, he's a great player, but that bar just keeps going like this. That's my problem with it. And meanwhile, freaking Barry Bonds isn't in the Hall of Fame. Our all-time home run. So we're talking about guys like Joe Mauer getting in the Hall of Fame, who was a nice player, but the greatest player of all time that we've ever seen and probably ever will see is at home. I can't. It makes zero sense to me. I can't get my arms around it. But we'll keep letting the guys with 143 career home runs in. No big deal. No doubt.
It's so hard, man. Keith, what are your thoughts on Barry Bonds, real quick, man?
Man, that dude took it to another level. It seemed like his I didn't like him. I didn't like he had great swagger. He had a lot of confidence. I didn't like his style on the field. He was. To say he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame is, I think, crazy. But I didn't like him, so if he doesn't get in, it won't bother me.
And like I said, I mean, so let's take steroids out of it, although we will never know for sure. Joe Mauer might have used them. We have no way to know that. Zero way. But then you got a guy like Kurt Schilling, 3,000 strikeouts. 3,000 strikeouts is a Hall of Fame statistic.
Mm-hmm.
He has it. And
19 guys.
Get in.
19 guys have done that as pitchers, and he's not in. That's a travesty.
He should be in. If you go back and you say, hey, listen, we're gonna consider it here out that this steroid era is still going to get in, but we're not going to allow it anymore. That's the thing. It's like, if you allow it, then can you justify not allowing it now if somebody gets caught? It's just hard. It's such a slippery slope, but I do think those guys with these fantastic stats, I mean, I'm not really going to argue that Joe Mauer was as good as Barry Bonds. That's insane.
No.
But I saw where Joe Mauer was up for MVP. Did he win the MVP?
1-1.
Yeah, I thought so.
6 all-star teams.
Okay. That's not bad. But that's not bad. I mean, I'm saying it's not bad. Like, it's just, I mean, we're talking about, on the fringe of getting into the Hall of Fame here, which is better than, the top 1% of the top 1% of the top 1%. So we're looking at things right here that I think are worth talking about. I like the fact that he's a different kind of catcher, though.
Yep, I agree with that. So, David, I got to ask you, man. Derek Jeter is obviously one of your favorite players of all time. So, talk about him a little bit from the Yankees' perspective.
Yeah, man, he was Mr. Clutch. I'm going to be honest with you. He never was like my favorite player on the Yankees. I don't know why. There was always other guys that I liked better or rooted for more. But man, all the clutch hits that he had, he knew when to put it out. The great diving play into the stands that he made in that playoff game. I can't think of even who they were playing, but it was just an insane catch. The guy did everything with class, and that's something you can't say about most athletes today. It seems like everybody's got a chink in their armor or something that they've done. But Derek Jeter went out there every single day. To be honest, and you guys can chime in here, swing always looked awkward. He seemed like he was always behind the ball and just poking it to right field, but he knew what to do, man, how to get runs in. Played a good shortstop. He was never like a fantastic shortstop, but he always seemed like in the middle of a bunch of big plays. And, to be honest with you, we can talk about this later when we talk about the Yankees update, but he's what they're missing right now, the guy that could pull the team together. And he just knew how to win. So Derek Jeter is one of the greatest all-time players. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And, a big part of my childhood growing up and teenage years watching the Yankees win were around Derek Jeter. So I think it's pretty cool.
I'll tell you, this is interesting that you said that he's the type of guy that can pull everybody together. This is kind of Tom Brady. And this was Kobe Bryant, what I appreciate about him. And I want to get into that. I think there's a big correlation here between Kobe Bryant and Derek Jeter that I want to share with you guys that I felt when Kobe Bryant passed away. But these guys are never the highest paid, but they were always valued that high. They just chose not to take, like, they probably could have negotiated super high contracts and never did. And they made a lot of money.
That's absolutely the case with Peter.
I think that they did that because they were like, they didn't want it to be about the money. There's a lot of pressure that comes out. And see, the Yankees throw that money. These guys are good players, but man, that comes with a ton of pressure. And I think if those guys would come there and be like, hey, like get there kind of like he did. He was just there, and then he just stayed and just be like, well, I'm not going anywhere. Just pay me reasonably, and I'm sticking around. They'd have another guy like that, but they don't really have anybody like that at this point. And I think you're right. I think that's why they can't, because they got some studs, man.
Yep.
And they seem like they got good dudes. Aaron Judge seems like a pretty good
He's a
guy,
great
man.
dude.
Yeah. So, but back to what I was likening him to Kobe Bryant for. When Kobe Bryant passed away, I rarely get to take naps on Sundays, and I took a nap that Sunday. Like I used to love taking naps on Sunday. Yeah, right, in college and stuff, because you didn't have kids and no responsibility. Um, and that was like my nap day was Sundays. Well, as kids get older, we have to do yard work because they're playing games all day Saturday. And so I had time to take a nap, and I woke up to Kobe Bryant passed away. Man, I did not realize I wasn't a fan of Kobe Bryant, but I did not realize that I didn't appreciate him for what he was when he was here. And
Sure.
Derek Jeter's like that for me. It's not that I dislike him. I just haven't been a big fan, but I'm afraid that if something were to happen to him, I would not have appreciated him like I should have. And now his career's over. That's one thing, it's been over for a while, but I didn't appreciate it for what he was when he was here. He's just a good player, solid, got things done. He was the type of player that all athletes want to be when they want to be a great team player, competitor. So I think that's a good likening, is like we can all appreciate somebody like that. But unfortunately, it shouldn't take something like him passing away, Kobe Bryant, for me to think that. But I think Derek Jeter's like that guy.
Yeah.
Because the Lakers are hated in basketball just like the Yankees are hated in baseball. So,
well, Jeter knew how, and I know we don't have a lot of time here, but he knew how to be a star and a team player at the same time. Something my boy A-Rod to this day can't do. He hijacks every broadcast. You can't. Nothing can happen on the field without A-Rod's opinion. Jeter was able to be a star, just be quiet, unassuming, and not divisive, and hold those teams together. So like I said, those type of players just don't come along very often. Most guys that are a star, they want to be the guy with all the glory and all that, and Jeter could have had all that. And like you said, he could have left 100 times and wanted to stay in New York and finish it out. So I really appreciate it. They did have one bad contract negotiation there at the end, though, and I think he's still a little bit peeved about it. But,
they did.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, DJ, speaking of future Hall of Famers, let's go to the Cubs update and talk about Frank Schwendel.
Hey, you got it, man. Frank Schwendel, a.k.a. Schwendy City. We got a new guy in town here, man. This is good stuff. So he won Player of the Week last week, which is unbelievable. This guy I never even heard of till Rizzo got traded. I'll be honest with you. 12 home runs and 26 RBI for the week. He batted .462. And, guys, he had 5 bombs and 12 ribbies in 6 games. And the biggest thing about all this is he tallied the go-ahead RBI in 4 of those games, which is crazy, man. It seemed like he was the game winner every night for that week. Unbelievable. He's a new Rizzo. I'm going to get the T-shirt of Schwendel. But, no, man, I go to Wednesday's game. It was a lot of fun. I was there to see Jason Hayward hit the 3-run walk-off. And, Keith, if you want to take him back to the Braves, you can have him at any point. I will gladly give him back to you for a couple boxes of baseballs. But he did have one highlight in his career here with the Cubs, and I was actually there to see it, the walk-off in the bottom of the 10th there. So it was awesome. Really cool thing there. And I got to talk to you about this first, David. So Joey Votto, of course, scored the only run for them, hitting a bomb. Well, the guy that was in the bleachers next to me barehanded that ball that he hit out. It was awesome. He barehands it and threw it to second base. It was unbelievable. It was so crazy. I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, this guy's an absolute stud. Like, we need to just sign him right away. So, but that was a cool story. It was good to see that he did that. And one of the things that happened too, guys, and I'll talk about this real quick, is I'm going to show this little video on the TV here on the screen. It's a 20-second video. I just got off, I just got onto the property there at Wrigley, and here's the marquee cameras on me, Keith, and here's my slow motion moment. Everybody's got that slow motion moment where you're walking down the street all cool. This is kind of mine. It happened in this game here, so I'll put it up here to the screen, and we'll get that on there best we can here.
I can see it. That's a perfect shot.
There I am, man. So my slow motion moment there in time, and I couldn't wait to show David that I was so popular.
You gotta go find somebody to put that to music, like that music from the one of those Quentin Tarantino movie where I can't remember what it's called now, where they're walking up.
I've been dreaming of that slow motion moment my entire life.
There you
It
go.
finally happened, man. So
You thought you were going to be getting off
right.
the team bus, though.
Yeah.
Not whatever bus that was, right?
Not the school bus.
The school bus, yeah, that shuttled me from my car. I was getting off of that bus, and I'm like, I look like a minor leaguer for sure coming off of a school bus to the game. I'm like, I just got called up to the big thing. So that was a lot of fun. Good game there. Chris Bryant also this week, guys, had an emotional comeback to Wrigley. He was coming here with the Giants. I got 3 standing ovations like he deserves. He'll be back in a couple months when he signs a 7-year deal with the Cubs, David. So Wilson Contreras, a little side note here, hitting only 18 homers and 43 ribbies this year in 112 games. He's had a pretty down year. I didn't really realize how bad he was doing until I looked up his stats. And he's been struggling, no doubt. And last but not least, guys, the Cubs got eliminated from the playoffs this week.
No way. No way.
Broke my heart, but the season's over officially. So that's your Cubs update for the week, guys.
Well, Keith, let's shoot it over to you, man. So talk about the Braves a little bit, and maybe before you get into the update necessarily, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you became a Braves fan, maybe some of your favorite players?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was growing up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that was the team that was on TV all the time. The Cubs and the Braves, and the Braves were really close to Chattanooga. So I had a lot of Braves friends who were friends. So we just started watching a bunch of the games, and Dale Murphy was, this was back when the Braves weren't quite in the 90s form yet. But Dale Murphy was a lot of fun to watch. Great player, probably my first favorite Braves player that I had. And then as the early 90s hit, my dad and his buddies were all at each other with the Reds and the Braves. And we went to a Reds-Braves game in Atlanta, and I took the side of the Braves. And so I took the side of the Braves, and they got beat. And I was so mad because my dad just talks so much trash. But that was back when they had Barry Larkin. The Reds had Barry Larkin and Chris Sabo and Paul O'Neill. And so they had a really stacked group. And the Braves were just kind of getting on the front end of getting all those guys. I want to say they had Chipper Jones barely, but he was still young. And they were getting into their pitching, studs. They didn't have Maddox at the time. They had Glavine. I don't think they had Avery yet. I don't think he was there quite yet, but they weren't quite in full form. But I would watch those guys play on TV, and I'd pretend that I was playing with them, and just got me to be a big fan of them. I'm still a fan I'm actually a fan of both them and the Reds now. But it's one of those things where when you watch a team growing up, it's kind of hard not to root for them, especially when they're kind of hitting back in that form. Freddie Freeman reminds me of a Chipper Jones and a Dale Murphy type, because he's just kind of that likable player that everybody likes. So, man, I grew up watching them play, loved watching them play. I watched every second of that game. They beat the Pirates. Sid Bream rounding third. Good stuff, man.
Classic moment.
Oh, it was. Slowest guy on the field.
Yeah. So Dale Murphy was your first favorite player, if I'm understanding right. Who's somebody more recently that you've liked to follow?
Man, I really like Freddie Freeman. Although Ozzie Albies is probably more of a player. He's like my style of player. Second base, that's what I played. He's got power. He got more power than I did, but I feel like he just knows how to get the timely hit, and that's kind of the player I wanted to be. Runs well, just solid. Could probably do anything you needed him to do at the time. Tries to be that type of guy. Probably my favorite guy. I miss Acuna, but I like Albies. I've always liked him. I just like his style.
Yeah. So talk about the Braves a little bit. This past week, They extended their lead a little further on the Phillies, so they're 4.5 games up now. DJ, by the way, picked them to win the World Series, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's still in play. So talk about them a little bit this week.
Well, I don't know if I'm as confident as DJ, but it's probably also because when you follow a team, you kind of get in that moment where you're like, you don't want to get too overconfident. I definitely think they've got the pieces. When Acuna got hurt, I really felt like, honestly, they were, if you go look at their record in every month leading up to August, they were just right at 500. And then August they took off and were like 18-8, and that's where they catapulted up into first place. And that's right around the same time. I think Acuna got hurt in July, was it? It's close. I feel like they all kind of rallied around that. Like they kind of like, it's the same thing we were talking about before. You don't realize what you got until he's gone, and you want to show everybody, hey, we can do this, and rally around him. But I think he's somebody everybody loves, but you kind of realize you need to pick it up. And then everybody picked it up, and now they're playing great.
Yeah.
I feel like Austin Riley's doing really well.
Ooh,
He hit the ball well. He's killing it. And you got guys stepping up, getting big hits. I watched them against Marlins on yesterday. They didn't look like they were going to win that game. Came back and ended up, winning it with two I guess not back-to-back home runs, but close to back-to-back by Albies and Freeman to give them that 5-3 win. And then the save from Will Smith, which cool name right there, right? Will Smith.
That's right.
But and I think he's got 30 plus saves on the season.
Yeah, he does.
So it's they've got good starting pitching. They got solid. They can't get any. I don't feel like they can get any injuries to their pitching staff. They might have some people that I'm not paying as much attention to, but I don't know if they're going to be able to be as deep there if they get any injuries. So hopefully they'll keep those guys healthy. And they got a shot because they got a good, solid group. Just no real weaknesses that I can see at this point where they can't fill them in with somebody.
Man, Austin Riley, you were talking about him, 29 homers, 89 ribbies, batting .297. So he's hitting and producing, 369 on base. And Ozzie Albies is 28 bombs, 94 ribbies from your second baseman, batting .257 with a 312 on base, 142 hits. Those two guys don't get enough credit for this team. And the three big trades they made to get all those outfielders to replace Ozuna and Acuna there was huge for them. And these guys are stepping up and mashing, and they're doing a great job of staying in this and making me not look too bad for picking them to win the World Series, as they've overtaken everybody in that division. And we can get to the division later on when we update the standings here. But man, I really think the Braves got a shot at this. Like you said, I think you're exactly right with the starting pitching being the key for them. Is if they can hold it together and not get hurt, then they'll be fine.
Fried looked awesome the other day.
Yeah,
he just was blowing it by people. But there's a player that's not played quite as much this year that I think might be their best athlete, and is that Soler. He's I think he's only played in 38 games. That guy's an athlete.
Yes.
And he was playing that game, and I was like, gosh, man, this guy's got to catch on. And he's not doing bad. He's 280, 281. And he's not played in as many games. I don't think he's getting some more quality at bats, and I think he's going to be a baller for him and a key player if they are to make a run.
Yeah, people forget 2 years ago he hit 40 homers.
He broke the Royals single season record.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing, you don't keep up with them quite as much until they get to the team you watch, and he's good because you can see it in the way he plays. You just got to catch fire and start getting rolling again.
Yeah, got it. So David, talk about those Yankees, buddy.
Speaking of someone who needs to catch fire and get rolling again, man, the Yankees are awful. It is so hard to watch. So 2-8 this past week, got swept by the Blue Jays, and to be honest, only one of those games was really even close. Aaron Boone continues his series of puzzling bullpen moves. So Loizaga's on the DL. Chapman's lost it. Chad Green suddenly has lost it. And so here we are playing for our lives, DJ. The fourth game of the series. We just need to win a game here. We're fighting for a playoff spot. And Boone trots out Andrew Heaney, who promptly gives up 4 runs in an inning. So the Yankees managed to fight their way back in it, and they get to the last inning, and my boy Brooks Kriskey's back. 1 inning, 5 hits, 5 runs, 3 walks, which puts us out of our misery. I don't even know what to say, DJ. This has been the most frustrating year for me as a Yankee fan. Even some of those years in the 2000s when Girardi was there, you felt like they were playing better than they were capable of. They just had some bad teams. This is one of those years when they're just underperforming. And I realize they've had a lot of injuries. Garrett Cole went down this week. Jamison Tyone went down this week. Loizaca's out. I mean, they've had a ton of injuries, and I can't blame Boone for any of that. But just some of the stuff he does is puzzling. But they won today, came back and beat Minnesota. So maybe they turned around. They got the Orioles next, and supposedly Garrett Cole is coming back. But they're in the fight for their life. So right now they're out of the playoffs. Man, Toronto is killing it. So I just pulled it up here just to see how they did today. Toronto won 8-1. And thankfully for whoever I'm playing in fantasy, I left Alex Manoah on the bench for some odd reason. He pitched 8 shutout innings, so that was really cool. But anyway, I don't think the Yankees are going to make the playoffs, DJ. I just don't think they got whatever it takes to get in there. The bullpen is a disaster. Roldis Chapman is a disaster. Chad Green, who's been having a good year, is a disaster. All the other guys, I just don't even know what to say. But
so yesterday, David, I wanted to bring this up about yesterday real quick in the fight that went on between the boys in the dugout there with the Yankees and Francisco Lindor. And let me be the first to say that Francisco Lindor needs a good butt whooping. So I was really hoping that Stanton, when he was rounding the bases, would just clock him good. You know, think about the things that Lindor has done this year. What an absolute idiot. And I am not a fan. Okay? Not a fan. Number one, he fights his teammate Jeff McNeil down in the tunnel, talking about a rat and a chicken or whatever they were talking about. I have no idea what that was all about. That was an all-out fight because Lindor doesn't know how to play his position and shut his mouth. The second thing he does is he's out there booing the fans, giving them a thumbs down, telling the fans to shove it, basically. And then now he's telling all these Yankees guys that they're whistling out the signs and everything. Are you going to tell me that you're going to go after guys like Anthony Rizzo, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton and want to fight those guys? Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. You can bring your little boy Baez over there, too. You're both going to get whooped bad, and they both need it. And I love Javi Baez, but they both have short man disease. They both have short man disease and need whoopings.
Javi Baez is whooping bad. And let me tell you, if there is a team that you don't want to fight, it is the Yankees.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're so big.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I think Gallo's 6'6", and Judge is 6'7".
Oh, Gallo. I forgot about Gallo. Yeah.
Yeah, Rizzo's a big dude. These clowns, man. Javi Baez is a clown. I'm just
Aroldis Chapman takes his shirt off. Aroldis Chapman kills somebody, though. He is a monster.
Yeah,
he's scary.
I agree.
I think Aroldis Chapman he's a monster in terms of his size. I think he might be a little bit of a teddy bear, and that's why he's struggling right now because that dude should be mowing everybody down.
Did y'all see him sweating the other day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in that game and was struggling. And I've never seen somebody sweat so profusely. You could tell
spraying out of his face.
Man, it was over. And I was praying for them to get him out of there that game. I can't remember what game that was. It was one of the games he blew last week. But it was like a water fountain coming off of his hat, man. It was crazy. But
one of the games he blew doesn't eliminate it far enough. That's way too many. You got to be more specific.
It's been rough. And what's so crazy is he was so incredibly dominant.
Yeah.
The first 2 months of the year.
Yes, he was.
He came back with a new pitch this year. He throws a splitter now. So it was like, now it's really unfair. But he just can't. He goes stretches. He can't find it.
That's the thing. I just mentally, I don't think he's got it. And you see spurts of it. I mean, I saw him a lot when he was with the Reds. You just see spurts of him just being like, this guy's going to just destroy everyone.
Yep.
And then he'll just lose it. And it's like, what the heck is going on? And I think it's just mentally. I think it's all mental. It's a different version of the yips,
Yeah.
He was on the mound the last 2 times the Yankees lost in the playoffs. So I'm going to say they had the lead in both of those games. He was on the mound to close it out, and they lost it. So
good point.
One more year and $17 million is what the Yankees owe him. So But right now it's just a disaster in Yankeeville. So that's about all I got to say about all that. But hey, let's talk about the standings here a little bit, guys. So we'll start in the AL East since that's where we've been. Tampa Bay is now up 8 games, but charging hard is Toronto, man, and they finally kind of found it. I mean, the hitting's always been awesome, but Robbie Ray and Jose Barrios and Steven Matz, surprisingly, the pitching's come along. So, what's your thoughts on the AL East?
Man, so I'll start on this. Let me just kick it off with a little Wander Franco talk for the Rays, man. This guy is on a tear, a 39-game on-base streak as a 20-year-old, which is unreal. And now he's on the IL with a hammy. They're not sure he's going to come back at all for the rest of the regular season and might be iffy for the playoffs. So that's a big blow to the Rays, no doubt. But it just seems like we talked about so many times, David, that they'll just plug somebody in there. They'll be fine. You know, even when they brought up Wander, we were kind of like, where's he going to play with all these studs they got? Well, now he's out, and then that stud can just take his place. So they'll be fine. But it's absolutely amazing. It shows that a 56-game hitting streak. This is an on-base streak he's got, which is unbelievable. Just think of the hit streak that Joe DiMaggio bought, 56. You talk about unbreakable records. That one is up there too, along with Cy Young having 511 wins, which is unheard of anymore too. Getting wins is tough nowadays too. But yeah, so with Wander Franco being out, that hurts the Rays a little bit, no doubt. But the Blue Jays, man, are on fire, 9-1 in their last 10, David. Currently tied with the Red Sox for the last wild card spot, not including anything that happened tonight. 44 home runs for Vladdy Jr., batting .319 and 102 ribbies. Got a shot at the Triple Crown. Still a little bit in their hunt for that. A 408 on base and 170 hits. Vladdy's a big reason this team is tearing it up like they are, and they just are getting the hitting. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago how they were struggling taking their lumps as young guys. Well, they've kind of let the talent fight through here and are dominating now. And it's just been crazy. And like you said, the Yankees have won 2 out of their last 10 and have fallen out of the wild card. So that division has still been going back and forth, and it's still the top to bottom best division in baseball and a lot of fun to watch.
I don't follow that crew as much, and I don't follow all of baseball like you guys are very on top of this. And I'm enjoying hearing this because I see it when I watch it on the Sports Center. And Vladdy Jr. is one that I obviously know because his dad was in our era watching a ton of baseball, and I like watching him. He has some similarities, but I think he's his own player. I think he's going to end up being his own player. How old did you say he was again?
I think Vladdy's 21.
21 or 2, yeah.
I was going to say, I don't think I was like, he's got to be 22, 23, and he's just going to make there were some things that I saw that were the same, and some, like, the thing about Vladdy Sr., that dude was just like, so, like, everything looked smooth and long, but he had such good bat speed, but it didn't look fast. But his bat speed was fantastic, and it's because he had to slow it down, or else he would have been out in front of everything. Those are, looking at that crew. I'm looking at the standings right now. Gosh, they're all right there, 9 at the wild card. But like you said, it's who's playing well at the right time, and the Yankees aren't playing well. The Blue Jays are playing fantastic. They've got back in this thing. They might end up eking that out for the wild card. I don't think they're going to catch the Rays. I mean, it's 9 games. It's a lot. And the Rays, like you said, are just they look like they've got a fantastic crew as well. Man, I like to take it back to when we were watching it back in the day with old Vladdy. That guy was he was just a different level athlete, man.
One of my favorite players of all time is Vladdy Guerrero. He's on my if you were to give me 10 guys and make a team out of my favorites, he'd be on there for sure.
Momentum's going to carry those guys. I think they'll take that wild card spot.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. Boston's they had the COVID thing too, which, believe it or not, that's when the Yankees got hot, when they had 20-some players on the DL. They actually got hot then. But it's going to be interesting to see when those guys come back how Boston fares. I do believe the Yankees have a lot better pitching than Boston, but I think Boston's a little bit better hitting team. So It's going to come down to the wire, it looks like, for that last spot.
A lot of fun.
So let's jump down to DJ's favorite division, the AL Central. And DJ, would you remind me who you picked to win the AL Central, just while we're here talking about this?
Oh, man. A team that is 19 and a half games out of first place that resides in the state of Minnesota, who is currently at the bottom of the division. Wow, what a terrible year that they've had. It's been awful, but this division is unfortunately over. But I've been giving White Sox fans a hard time for the last month wearing Astros hats and anything I can find that has anything to do with the Astros, because that series is going to be over in 3 games when the Astros come in and trash them in the ALDS, literally trash them with the trash cans. And the South Side will not sell those games out. I promise you that. And they'll be out before you know it. And it'll be a big embarrassment to the South Side of Chicago. And I will leave that division as that.
Well, so I might have to, if there's tickets available for the White Sox and Astros game, I may have to come up for that and take the kids and show them what a real baseball team looks like. No, I will take you. You'll take me, but we'll sit. We'll sit probably in the first row because we can probably pay $5 and sit in the first row. Nice. Well, the White Sox are still dominating, 12 games up on the Indians. One thing, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but man, Detroit has all of a sudden gotten real competitive. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the Yankees had to play them here fairly recently in the last few weeks. And man, you kind of feel something brewing there. Have you guys noticed that?
Absolutely. And we talked about this, David, how this is a team to watch. You know, we knew this year would be rough for them, but they're starting to compete. They're starting to bring some pieces in, and they've got a good farm system of studs that are going to come in here and make them even more legit. And I really believe they're going to be active in the free agent market. The more that they start piecing this thing together, they're going to start piecing things together a little bit better here in the free agent market. Yeah, man, that's a great point. They had a stretch here about a month ago where they were the hottest team in baseball, and that kind of tapered off a little bit. Now they're starting to play a little bit better ball here too, towards the end of the season. So yeah, man, I'm telling you, like the Royals too in that division, they're not going away either. We know the Indians are always going to be there, and I'm not. You know, this is an awful year for the Twins, but we know how good that they are, and they'll come back and be a little stronger next year. And they've got the potential to come back, and with a few moves, they can be right back at the top of the division next year too.
Yep.
Detroit beat on Sunday. They beat Tampa Bay. I think I saw that. In extra innings. But that it's funny. Late in the season, you see them fighting like that. They got a great farm club. These guys may be fighting for their spot. They might be fighting for that contract. And that's something that you always got to consider with these guys who I really don't think they're going to be able to come back and do much with it, but they're fighting because they got something to feel like they got something to fight for. That's how you can see them being competitive like this at the end of the year. So,
yeah. And although he's a cheater, AJ Hinch is a good manager. He really is. And I think that they picked the right guy there, to lead that team. And like DJ said, they got a lot of great guys coming up. So the Tigers, man, there's somebody to watch. If they could sign a few guys to add to what they have, there's somebody to watch for sure. Let's jump over into AL West, where Houston still 6.5 games up. What's interesting there is the fall of Oakland. So Seattle and Oakland are fighting for that second place spot. They both fighting for a wild card spot, although I think they're going to fall up short. What do you guys think about what's going on in the AL West there?
Well, the A's, man, like they're 4-6 in their last 10, so they're struggling mightily, like you said. Both those teams are 3 back in the wild card, which they're not out of it. It's amazing to me. I say this every week, I think, but Mariners hanging in there is really cool. And I don't think anybody really thought that they, David, before the season, you were pretty high on them, and I got to give you credit on that. You were one of those, hey, keep an eye on this team. You never know. And you were right about that. I'll give it to you. One of the few things you're right about. But yeah, 3 back in the wild card, man. It's good stuff, and they're both hanging in there. And the Astros are running away with it, and I'm excited for the Astros. I will be a big fan that first week of the playoffs of the Astros. Let's go. Got this, Astros. Take out those White Sox, baby.
That's the only reason you're wanting them to kill it in there, isn't it?
Yes,
Oakland. Every time I see Oakland, there's 2 things come to mind. They were my first superstar favorite team. Like I like Mark McGwire.
Yeah.
That was the Ricky Henderson. I like those guys. They were my AL team back in the late 80s, early 90s. But when Moneyball came out, it took a whole nother level for me because that was my style of play, was getting on bases. Like that was what I wanted to do. That's what I did. And I was like, where was this whenever I was coming out of high school? Because I would have been a hot commodity, right? Everybody would have been trying to get me signed. And I think that Moneyball catches up to you because there's a certain level. It works over time. It's very consistent. I think that you find that people got to step up and make plays in timely moments, and the pressure gets to you a little bit. Like, wait a minute, we've played well all year. Now the end's coming. And the same thing happened in the movie where they just couldn't seem to figure out how to get it, turn the corner and win at the timely moments. Yep. They were winning over time. And I think that's what we find that Moneyball does. If you don't have at least one or two players who can bring people together, Jeter's a great example. Guys like that, guys that bring teams together. And the Cubs had those when they got broke through those barriers. They had guys like that who could just get timely plays. And you got to have that. And I don't know if they got that, man.
Yeah, that is a great point. Seems like Oakland's always a young team too, and I think that plays a big role. A lot of times, not a lot of veterans, and they need to put a few guys in around that. But Oakland does what Oakland does, man. They're always competitive, and you got to respect them for that. I actually watched Moneyball last night.
Love that movie.
I coach basketball as well. I'm just going to throw this in there. We'll move on. We lost our star player, and we were talking today, man, how are we going to replace Gracie? How are we going to replace Gracie? And I had to go back to Moneyball and say, well, we can't replace Gracie. That's impossible. We just need an extra 400 points out of what we got. So it's a Moneyball move. But anyway, we'll move on.
Good.
AL East. So interesting thing. NL East. I'm sorry. Interesting thing this week. The Mets, of course, they were playing sorry Yankees, but it seems like they still got a little bit of fight left in them. So this division, I think for all intents and purposes, it is over. But you think the Mets could sneak back in there, DJ? You're shaking your head.
Absolutely not. The Mets are an absolute joke. Think about this, David. It's been a long year, and we kind of forget some of the things that have happened. What happened to their first GM? He got in trouble. Bye-bye. Yeah. What happened to their interim GM? Just got nailed for he's getting charges on him as well. Hello, that's ridiculous. Then they got through the whole boo thing. Your $120 million player is totally getting booed and throwing the thumbs down to the crowd. Javi Baez does the same thing.
$320 million player. I'm gonna throw that.
Yeah, 320. What am I saying? 124. More like 120 million a year. But yeah, these guys are an absolute joke. Syndergaard never came back, which they were relying on. DeGrom's been out all this time. I really believe this is like I'm so shocked that they're even still in this thing. I'm just being honest with you. I have no idea how they are. I really don't. It's been a nightmare season, and I'm not thinking of some of the things that have happened to this team, but it's been crazy, man. They're like a soap opera. They've been this way all year long. All the things that are happening there in Queens, it's crazy, man. And so I am not a believer. I haven't been from the beginning. I knew stuff like this was going to happen. Maybe not to this extent. This is crazy. But the Mets are a joke, man. And I see them not even coming close. And David, a team that intrigues me is the Phillies. They just dropped 3 out of 4 games to the Rockies this past weekend. What are you doing, Phillies? Seriously, you're that close. You're 2.5 games back in the wild card, and you're dropping 3 out of 4 to the Rockies of all teams. I can't figure them out. They'll go on a stretch where they're the hottest team in baseball. Then they lose 3 out of 4 to the Rockies. They can't figure it out, man. I really don't think that they're legit either because of that. I think they're far too inconsistent. The Braves are going to win this division. When they took it over and made those moves, the GM won in this division. He did an awesome job. I really feel that way. And then Miami's got great young pitching, man. Those guys are showing that the future's bright there. They had another couple outings this week by some of their pitchers that were outstanding. So it's a great division from top to bottom as far as competitiveness goes. And I really think the Braves are running away with this and no wild cards out of that division.
Yeah. Big point you made was that the Phillies just don't seem to be doing well at the right time. And it's that momentum thing. The Mets, I don't want them to get momentum. There's this thing we talk about all the time when I work with the businesses I work with now, and that is that if you want to receive appreciation, you kind of got to give appreciation. They're thinking that oh, well, you don't appreciate us, so we're going to treat you the same way we're treating you. Well, are you really trying to change the fans' behavior, or are you just trying to show out? And the answer is they're trying to show out. And showing out, that type of mindset does not last. It does not lead to sustained success. And here's the cool thing about baseball is you can't just win. When we get into playoff time, it's different. But over the course of time, when you got 10, 15, 20 games, you can't win consistently over 20 games without falling back on success principles and doing things the right way. It's going to come back and bite you. And that's what I think is going to happen to these guys. I think you're right. I think the Braves are going to win it, not just because I want them to, but because I just think that they've got solid momentum and the other teams don't. So
yeah,
I think that's going to be the case.
I totally agree. Let's jump over to the Central. The Brewers are still dominating. DJ's loving that as well. And interesting this week, Cincinnati kind of had a rough week up against the old Scrubs. Man, I want Cincinnati in that wild card so bad.
Yep.
So,
me too.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm with you on the Reds, man. I mean, Keith, we kind of been talking about this in past podcasts, how much we're kind of rooting for the Reds to get back into the playoffs because we got so many friends and former teammates that are Reds fans, and we're just kind of pulling for them a little bit here to get back in there. And nobody likes the Cardinals, so we don't want to see that happen. So we're pulling for the Reds. And, man, the Cardinals, unfortunately, have snuck back into this thing and are one game back in the wild card, which is unbelievable to me. They came out of nowhere. I heard a stat today, guys, and I was kind of surprised by it because, where did they come from? Like, you don't really hear that they're, like, destroying everybody. Well, they're really not. They're 17-13 in their last 30. Okay, so that's good. Don't get me wrong. But I didn't think that would be, like, good enough to get them back into this thing, and they have. And it's because, the Reds have struggled recently. The Padres have been terrible. So the Cardinals came back just by being a little bit above, average here a little and playing, good baseball, not great baseball. And they're right back in this thing, man. So unfortunately, we can't rest on them now. Arenado's starting to get hot, which is not good for people who don't want to see the Cardinals make the playoffs. But Milwaukee, man, got a no-hitter this week from Corbin Burns and Josh Hader. And that combination right there would make me want to call in sick that day as a hitter, man. I probably would, or try to bat left-hander or something, because good luck with that, man. So those guys are dominating. I hate to say it, but they are just unbelievable. And I can actually see it, man. And that's another thing you were right about is the Brewers, David, unfortunately. Just a few things you're right with. I'll give you a little credit, but this division is crazy. And like I mentioned before, the Cubs got eliminated from playoff contention. So that breaks my heart, and I'll end that division update with that.
I'm looking at the Brewers are running away, obviously, with the lead in there. The wild card, that's a battle. The Reds, the Dodgers are, head and shoulders above everybody else. They're actually, I guess we'll get to them in a second. And the Padres are right there with the Reds, Cardinals. This is a career. I don't worry as much about the Phillies or Mets. Like I said before, those Cardinals and Padres, definitely, you got to keep an eye on them.
Oh yeah.
So, but speaking of which, I guess we can get back into the West there if we want to.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to admit something here, guys. I hadn't been following much baseball lately. It's been kind of crazy, and so I had just assumed after the Dodgers series that the Dodgers had taken first place back over, and that the Giants. So I pulled up just right before we got on here, pulled up the standings, and there's the daggone Giants, man, up 2.5 games, 9-1 in their last 10. Dude, I have to be a Giants fan right now. I just think it's really cool what they're doing. What do you think, DJ?
I can't figure it out. And they just came to town here for a 3-game set. And so here's the thing, guys. It's like, we understand, like, they don't have, like, that absolute superstar. Chris Bryant's numbers do stand out. Buster Posey's a superstar too. We get that. But the rest of that team, it's like they're all 18 to 20 homers, 60, 70, awesome. 80 ribbies, all of them. It's like they are just a well-balanced team, and it's working for them, man. And their pitching's been dominant. And so everything is going right for them. They're 9-1 in their last 10. And when you get a chance to see them come play the Cubs, you start to understand a little bit more about it's all of us and not just, hey, we got 3 superstars here and the rest of these guys, we don't know what we're going to get out of, These guys, you're going to get everything out. Tommy La Stella's playing out of his mind right now. That guy has been awesome for them. And they've had some guys go down with injuries and just plugged in guys, and they've been awesome too. And it's like unbelievable to see these guys. They made a lineup the other day that I was like, there's 6 to 9 hitters. I was like, who are these guys? You barely know anything about them. These are the bench guys coming in to play that role for the day. They still won that game. It's like, it's crazy, man. Longoria is still playing good baseball. Brandon Crawford just got a new these guys, man. I don't know how they're doing it, but it's awesome.
I want those guys to, if my teams don't win, and when I say that my teams are, mainly the Braves and the Reds, I want these guys to do it. Chris Bryant, I've always liked him.
That's what I like to hear. Good job,
but
buddy.
Buster, I'm sure you love that one.
Oh yeah.
Buster Posey. This is that crew that you become a little bit of a front runner when they do well. I've always liked Buster Posey when he, just
Me
the
too.
toughness. Longoria, and they got a Yastrzemski on there. Come on, Yaz.
You can't beat it, man.
Like you can't. Like I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like this is fantastic. I don't mind seeing them at all do well. Which is weird because I used to hate the Giants. So, but no ill will towards them now. It's a completely different team. The reason I hate them is because they beat the A's back when I liked the A's. So, yeah.
89 World Series. Yep.
Yeah, that was it. So, but yeah, I like that, man. I like their lineup. Hope they keep it rolling.
Equally as shocking has been the fall of the Padres.
Oof.
And again, just admittedly, I haven't watched that much baseball the last little bit, but what's going on with the Padres?
So Darvish has been terrible. Blake Snell just went down hurt. That's not good. So their rotation is taking a major knife to the back, man. These guys are struggling bad. 4-6 in their last 10. They've just haven't had the pitching, man. They really haven't. And their offense has been inconsistent. Everything that you could imagine going wrong for them has gone wrong. It's hard to watch sometimes because, the Dodgers just came in and just ate them up, man. And Scherzer made them look terrible the other day, which he makes a lot of people look terrible. But he just, they're not there right now. Something's not right there. And with all that talent, injuries is something you can't control. And when that's happening to your starting pitching, it's hard to overcome that, no doubt. But the Dodgers, man, when you have to play them and the Giants towards the end of this season, that's another big thing for the Padres. They're facing those guys a ton down the stretch. Not good for them, very good for the Reds. But here's another thing, too. The Dodgers got Clayton Kershaw back tonight. They got Scherzer. They got Kershaw. Urias is killing it, man. This guy's starting rotation is just unbelievable, and they're completely healthy now. And Trevor Bauer is out of the mix now, so they don't have the distraction of thinking he's going to come back or not at all. So now they know exactly who they have going forward into the playoffs. So the Dodgers, man, are ready to go and playing good baseball too. So this division's awesome, man, and potentially 3 playoff teams in it.
Crazy. So we'd like to transition the show here a little bit, Keith, and we're going to kind of hand things off to you a little bit. So as I stated in the beginning, Keith joined us there at Tennessee Temple our senior year after not playing baseball for 3 years and playing basketball, and was a big part of our team that year. So Keith, why don't you just start us off from Little League on up and just let us know about your baseball career.
Oh man, don't give me too long-winded on this. So when I was a kid, it was always baseball. That was what I wanted to grow up and be, was a baseball player. When I wasn't playing baseball, actually, I was in the summer. If my friends weren't at home when we weren't out playing baseball or kickball or something outside, I was watching baseball on TV. I had a little foam basketball and a little tiny wooden lookouts bat that I made up a game where I would hit the ball and be the players on I had a notepad. I would write the players' names down as they called them out. If the Braves weren't playing, it was the Cubs and whoever they were playing, because those are the 2 teams that played on TV all the time. And so baseball was it. Played other sports too. Football joined the mix probably around 9 or 10. Basketball was there from the beginning, but just not the same. Baseball's always been my people. That's always been my best friends. In my wedding, it was people I played baseball with. Coming through middle school, I was like, we were such a good middle school team. You guys might have known a few people from Temple, Brock Walters. Brock played against me in middle school. Our baseball team was so good at Lookout Valley in middle school, my 8th grade year. We beat Brock and them 33-0, and I didn't play past the second inning. Like our starters didn't play past the second inning. It was just they were not good. Now Brock was a good player, but the rest of his team was awful, and so they couldn't catch the ball. But we were beating teams bad like that the whole year, and so we had a really good team all the way through high school. Went to the state tournament my senior year, didn't quite make it. Went to Cleveland State, played for a year. I was one of those guys that I was really solid, but I didn't have everything was okay. My arm wasn't good. I didn't have a good arm, but I could run a little bit. I wasn't super fast, but I could run. I could get on base. I had power. I just didn't hit a lot. I didn't hit for a lot of power. So it was weird. I just wasn't somebody who stood out, and I didn't feel like it was a great year for me. And I wanted to come back home to Chattanooga. Went there, played basketball. Actually walked on in basketball and football at UT Chattanooga. And then Coach Templeton at Tennessee Temple, the basketball coach, said, come back and play basketball for me. My last year. So it was about 3 years past that year at Cleveland State. I was like, hey, you know what? I can still graduate from UTC, which I needed to be able to teach in public schools. And I could take some classes, transfer them over, graduate the next year. I got to take a few extra classes. No big deal. I get to play my last year. Midway through the basketball season, we're having a good year. We ended up winning the national championship in basketball that year. So it was a great team. Coach Templeton says, hey, what do you think about after we're done going and playing baseball? And Caleb was acting like, man, I don't know if I'm going to play baseball because he had played the year before. And I was like, dude, if you play, I'll play. So we're like, yeah, we're going to play. So we decided we were going to play. And Kev found out the reason they asked me was because Gus Fernandez. I always forget it. Fernandez, yes. Had Tommy John surgery. And so really didn't have a true second baseman. And I played second in high school. So I was like, yeah, I'll come out there and do it. First game, I told you guys this earlier. I saw off 2 hits to right field and have 4 RBIs, 2 for 3. And Coach Hall thinks I'm this stud hitter. And Coach Hall was a great dude, but I felt like we were all just baseball minds. And so we started to just share what we thought. And we had to become leaders like that. And he just kind of let us lead. And it was a lot of fun. I didn't know everybody on the team, but like it took maybe 2 or 3 games to feel like we were just one big family.
Yeah.
So ton of fun. And I got to finish out. I told my wife this. I was like, I know I say I like basketball the best, but baseball have always been my people. And I was super bummed. I was more disappointed for those guys that were there for 4 years that I'm going out there and contributing for, because it was always about that for me. I was like, I tried to respect that. I wasn't the leader, but I tried to be a leader by being a follower, because it's these guys. I'm here to support these guys who've given everything they got, their heart and soul for 4 years. And I was so disappointed when we weren't able to pull it out at the end there. But man, it was fun. And it was just a great opportunity to end with just a good group of guys that all liked each other, all cared about each other, all wanted to do well for the sake of the team. Nobody was in it for themselves. And that's just rare to play on 2 teams like that. I had 2 teams I played on the basketball team and the baseball team. And to finish up my career playing completely in an officially competitive setting, other than just church league and slow pitch softball or adult men's baseball, was a fantastic experience and a very big blessing that I thank God for all the time. I was like, that was just a great opportunity to end it. And it's a quiet way to end it because nobody knows about it but me. But it was something I'm very grateful for, and I think about it all the time, guys. Yeah. I appreciate y'all welcoming me, man. It was y'all just didn't even act like there was, I was like, man, I'm not the same as these guys. They've been here 3 years. I don't want to pretend like I deserve what they deserve, but I want to help. And y'all didn't even question that, man. It was like, am I being punked? These guys don't even care that I'm first year. They like that I'm here.
Yep.
So yeah, man, it was a fun time. And I really cherish those memories.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We enjoyed having you on the team. Obviously, a big part of that senior year. And we always ask everybody, anything funny you can remember from those days? Any funny stories? We always like to look back and laugh a little bit.
All right. So the same day that I was telling you about, first day, I just give you a little background here. I was a terrible bunter my first year in college because I never bunted in high school. I was and I don't know why. I just never, coach never gave me the bunt sign. I bunted like my sophomore year once for sacrifice bunt, right? Didn't bunt a single time again. He tried to teach me how to drag bunt. I was terrible at it. I got to Cleveland State and I was terrible at it. But I was so bad that I was like, he wasn't going to be able to play me because of it. So I was like, man, I got to really work on it. And that spring, I led the team in sacrifices. This leads up to Tennessee Temple that year. Coach Hall had given us the signs and told us everything. And we had a chance to win and I don't think it was the first game. I think it might've been the second game that week, but it was at Ingle Stadium and it was at night. And we had a chance to win the game and runner on first and third, 1 out. And I'm up to bat and he's going to give me a squeeze signal. Now the squeeze signal was the hat. He was going to do do the signals, do the hat. And then he would go to the belt. Right. I'm pretty sure that was the order, the hat and the belt. And instead of giving me the full signs, he looked to his right, he looked to his left, made sure nobody was looking, and went hat belt real fast. Just so fast. And I was like, did he just give me the bunt? And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm bunting it. And I laid down maybe the most perfect bunt I've ever laid in my life. I just looked like I had done it a million times before when nobody knew that 4 years earlier I had struggled so bad with it. And Coach Hall's giving of the signal, I was like, I think everybody in the place knows you gave me a signal right there, but I'm still going to do it. Let's see what happens. And you know how squeeze this. You can know it's coming and still not doing anything if you just execute it.
Yeah.
So it was I don't know who was on third. I want to say, gosh, who was on third? I wish I could remember. I don't think it was you, DJ. I think you batted after me. I think we originally shifted it and you started batting later, like fifth or something.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
First, second, third, fifth. He moved me all over the place in that lineup.
You were always a first pitch fastball guy, I thought.
You got that right. Yep.
Especially real high ones. Like in his
yeah.
Yeah.
and Swor he was a Greg Maddux type. I just remember nobody could freaking hit you. Ground balls if they did, or pop-ups. So, but that was a funny story. That was really funny when he did that. I giggled in the middle of the at bat. And, I'm competitive, so I don't really laugh in key, moments. And I'm just like, did he just give me the bunt signal by just touching his?
The best signal he ever gave was to DJ. I don't remember what year that. Oh yeah, show him DJ.
Wait, I can't. There we go.
The stop sign and the go sign all at once, and DJ rounded, and it was like, "What do you want me to do?" And boom, threw him out. It was awesome. We still laugh all the time.
I stop go. Thought I was gonna blow my knee. I didn't know what he wanted me to do.
Oh my gosh!
It was awesome.
The stop go. Wait a second. Which hand? I thought you were doing wax on, wax off.
Yeah.
Oh man, the best show we could ever have is if we could ever get Coach Hall on here. DJ, we've got to figure out a way to make that happen.
We do, man. No doubt about it.
We give him a little bit of a hard time here, but that dude really did care about us.
Oh, absolutely.
And he let us be the good players that we were. Like we were all adults. And we were all mature enough to be able to handle that responsibility. I mean, I felt like there were a few practices, if I don't forget, that we ran ourselves. Like, man, these are good practices. You just don't get that from a group of players. So, yeah, give him credit, man. You got to know when to turn it over to the people who know what the heck they're doing, and he knew when to do that.
Absolutely.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. Well, Keith, man, it's great to have you on the show, man. It's great to catch up. First time since 2003. I think either one of us have seen you, and we appreciate you. And got to stalk your Facebook a little bit, man. It looks like you're doing great. 3 kids, if I'm not mistaken, and very successful, man. We're just proud to be able to call you a teammate and a friend, and good to see you again.
Man, I've enjoyed it, guys. This was fun. It's like I told you before, it's past my bedtime, but I'd have regretted if I didn't do it. So,
yeah, you got more guests. Do we need to call out all the people, DJ, that haven't come on the show? I mean, it's ridiculous. Lee Salyers, and we can just go down the list. But anyway,
stay on Lee. Stay on Lee. He's got to get on here.
That's
he
right.
He does, man. I agree. Yeah, we got a few guys on there that are holding out on us.
Yep.
That was fun.
We'll wrap it up. As always, please like our YouTube channel, share this on Facebook or social media, and we appreciate it. And DJ, I guess until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Have a good night, everyone.